Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am from the Electric Engineering Department of Hongik University, and today I would like to talk to you about the power wholesale market structure. Now, as we all know, the energy mix is rapidly changing, and more recently, the electricity security crisis is a big issue. So then, in order to respond to this, how can we improve or evolve the electricity wholesale market is the main topic. Now, the first two pages are about the short-term and long-term challenges as a way of explaining the background. The first is, again, as we all know, the future power market by, let's say, 2030 and 2050. Now, it is going to be dominated by the renewable sources. Now, the energy crisis and also even before the issue of the energy security crisis, then now these are the outlooks produced before then. And it talks about how by 2050, we have to reach net zero, meaning that the carbon emission has to be net zero. And then now we don't have too far to go, but so this is about by 2030 what we're going to do. So how all the different countries are going to do. So these are the NZE and the APC scenarios. So both of them are dealing with like renewable energy and also the nuclear power plant, and they're saying that these energy sources are going to be over 50%. And now this is a present challenge. Now the COVID-19, so as we recover from COVID-19, we see the power demand is recovering, and at the same time, Russia invading Ukraine, and then this is also disrupting gas supply, driving up the gas prices. On the right-hand side, this is a trend in gas prices as well as the coal prices, and you see that they are spiking. And what's in the middle is the UK wholesale electricity price, and this is also climbing sharply. So they represent serious challenges and serious crises, and so for them we have to think about various solutions. So for example, increasing energy supply or diversifying the energy sources, or also encouraging the customers to reduce their usage. And there are also a lot of discussions about the gas prices as well. So now, so far I have talked about more about the long-term challenges. So in the first few pages I talked about the long-term challenges, but now the second challenge is what we are faced with right now, so the imminent challenges. So then what I would like to discuss today is, now faced with these two issues, is the current power market structure able to handle them? So let me first discuss that question, and if not, then will there be an alternative approach? Is going to be the next topic. Now, before I go into this question, let me first state this. There is no such thing as a perfect market in the world. But depending on the timing and the region, there could be a better market. So we do not have to say that, well, no market is perfect, so all this discussion will be moot. So that is not the point. We would have to try to find a better market. Then why is this a good timing for us to discuss this in Korea? And that is first because of the electricity market in Korea is being upgraded. So of course what I'm discussing today is not limited to Korea, it's more generalized, but still I do believe that it is a good timing. And before we go into the main part, then what is a good market? And it is the market that can cost effectively accommodate low carbon clean energy sources. And so in these markets there are some principles that we have to consider as well, and they also have to be able to handle the challenges both present and future. So for the electricity market, then there would be like the ancillary service markets or the capacity markets, and of course the levels are not all the same, but then there are different types of markets and a lot of sub-markets too. Could be quite confusing. So how are we going to combine them in the right way to create the right structure, I believe is a point that needs further discussion. So first about so when we discuss the electricity market, then one of the most frequently asked questions is about whether it is a bilateral market or is it a mediated market. In other words, is there an intermediary or a middle player? And which one is a better market? So perhaps this is more of a fundamental question or a sensitive question. It's a question that defies an answer from myself. But then now the European market, they say that this is a contract-based market. The US market, on the other hand, is more of a mediated market. So a central planner tries to optimize this market. So, so this is based on the power supply. But then now, no matter the market, so not just the power market, but also the commodity market or whatever, then I would say that there are some elements of mixture of both, either bilateral or mediated. In other words, no market is just one type, but then we often see the mixture. So then in our case, then to differentiate between bilateral market or a mediated market, then the answer would depend on where the focus of this particular market lies. But for both, again, I also mentioned that there is a mixture of both elements, but depending on where we focus on, I believe that the electricity market structure could also be significantly different. Then for the European market, so for no matter the market, then there is the forward and scheduling commitment, and then also balancing. But then in Europe, they prefer more free transactions. So then for contracts, in other words, bilateral contracts, so you see that they are more tilting toward the right-hand side. So in Europe, balancing market is literally about balancing. So they would have their own free contracts, and then in the scheduling, they would schedule their usage. And then now, of course, during the grid operation, then sometimes they would not match. So the balancing market, what it does is to balance this. But then for the US market, what is different is that they have decentralized dispatch, and they also have decentralized commitment. And also, I'm not talking about the time sequence, but then again, this is more about where they put the focus on. So for the central dispatch, and also there's the real market reference, and then it would move on to the left-hand side. So then there are also some price risks in the spot market, and they can also be addressed by contract. So in a way, such risks would be hedged using contracts. So then, in the case of Korea, what would be a more appropriate market? Well, there are various factors. One would be the geography. So when I say geography or the topography, it does not mean there is more water or mountain, but then more of the cultural features of the market. And also not just the electricity market, but overall market culture. And second is the principles in the market are important. So the market principles also have to include reducing the overall cost. Then also the price has to be known to others. So the price information has to be theirs for the investors to make the decision on whether to invest in this market or not. And third, of course, the operation has to be transparent. And then also the non-discriminatory access should be allowed. And then the market environment. So this is about the circumstances surrounding the market. So for example, the energy crisis. So then for the Korean situation, which market structure would be right, which would be better, and also is there a different model than the European model or the US model? I believe that now these are the questions that we have to think about now. Now let us take a look at the first two bullets. So the Korean electricity market run by KPX, this is more based on centralized dispatch. And then rather than the European model, we are following more of the US model. And then another factor was about the trading cost. So trying to reduce the trading cost. So that would be done by optimizing the overall market in general. And then about the price, well, if it is based on contract, then the price will not be visible. So let's say no matter how many PPAs you have, even if you Google them, you will not be able to find the price. But then now, if it is PGA, then if you search them, then you can get the information in very pretty pictures right away. But still, I tend to think that the US market might be a bit more appropriate to Korea. I'm not trying to draw any conclusion here, but then I'm just stating that at this time it appears as if the US market is more appropriate. But then now the last part about the market environment. So given the current situation surrounding the market, the geopolitical issues as well as the long-term goals of net zero, so we also have to consider whether these environments can also be handled by the current structure of the market. Now then, let's first review the market. So the electricity market is structurally designed to enhance efficiency. And in this case, the pricing rule is very important because how we determine the price is very important. So in this case, it uses the marginal pricing rule. So using the marginal price. So there is the rule of using the marginal price to set the pricing. This rule comes with many good advantages. I'm not going to read through them all, but then these are the advantages, creating a general consensus of using marginal price in the market. Now, some also use pay as bid, but then since we are focusing on the US market, so the marginal pricing rule is the norm there. Then is the marginal pricing rule, will this be able to handle the mid-term or the short-term and long-term challenges? So one of the biggest concerns is also what the first speaker has mentioned as well, and that is about the renewable energy and how it has close to zero marginal cost, and likewise the nuclear energy as well. So now then, as you can see here, the merit order, then you see the pricing could have been determined at the central point, but then now later on the price keeps moving to the right, so the price plummets. So the average market price keeps going down, and then the VRE, so this is wind and solar, and they keep moving left and right. And then the market price would also go up and down. So there is price volatility. So there is going to be a big range of price volatility. And then on the left-hand side below, so this is about how the renewable energy increases, and as a result, the price on average falls. And then second is about the ERCOT. So this is in Texas, and it also shows how in the electricity market, the price volatility keeps growing. And the volatility by time is also increasing, but also by region, it is bound to increase as well in terms of the volatility. Then so far I have talked about the renewable energy. Then now what about the current situation? So how is it going to affect the price? Well, energy prices are going up, so the electricity market price will also go up. So this is the basis for the assessment. And one of the recent analyses is that now the marginal pricing based market is this right or not right? In other words, maybe we should move to the bilateral market. In other words, the contract-based market or even average price-based market. So these are some of the discussions that are more coming to the fore recently. Now let me also take a look into the European market and whether this is right for the current circumstances. Now the left-hand box, so this is about the self-schedule. So this is about the contract, and then also based on the self-scheduling. So the overall social cost for electricity based on these schemes. So individuals, so they would have the contract, they would also do their self-scheduling, meaning that individuals would optimize their own issues. So this is the sum of local optimization. But then on the right-hand side, so in the US market, it's more of decentralized optimization. So compared to the cost, then the left-hand side is going to be higher than what's on the right-hand side. And also the cost for optimizing the power grid. Well, this issue itself, now with the increasing penetration of renewable energy and also flexible sources and also the loads changing, so they also show that so all these are compounding the issues too. And that is why the gap between the left-hand issues and the right-hand issues is also growing. Then also the power system or the network, they are also becoming more and more complex. So in the European market, so I mentioned that there is self-scheduling and then there's balancing as well. So in the balancing market, the balancing cost is increasing too. So what's below is about the UK balancing cost increase, the pace of increase of the balancing cost in the UK. So you see that things are getting more and more dynamic. The cost gap as a result is increasing. And also, if we are to introduce the European market system, then this also means that the balancing cost is bound to increase too. So again, I'm not saying which one is better. So I'm not drawing any conclusion about which one is better. But then now it appears as if the US market is not entirely better positioned to handle the future challenges than the European market. Now then, once again, coming back to the central market, then if we are to adopt the central market, then what should be the way forward for us? So Professor William Hogan of Harvard University, now he has mentioned that in a competitive market operating under principles of open access and non-discrimination, good design begins with a real-time market and works backward. So then, for the market design, then let us start from the real-time market and the centralized market. And also, as I have mentioned earlier, because the real-time market and decentralized market, they can also be references for others too, because there are the price signals coming from these markets, and they can be the references for contracts for other purposes.
어떻게 우리가 디자인을 해야 되느냐? 첫 번째
Then how should we design this? The first is, I believe, the importance of scarcity pricing will increase. So now looking at this, the merit order, then on the right hand side, then most of it is zero. So the marginal cost is zero. So the scarcity pricing, then that is increasing sharply to the right. So when the capacity is in shortage, then the pricing goes up, so that is the scarcity pricing. But if we do not have this, then in the future, the marginal price, everything will be zero. But then you need this on the right-hand side, the green line. So when there is capacity shortage, then the price will skyrocket, meaning that the flexible resources, so the other assets will be able to move in. So meaning that it will then create incentives to make investment. So that is why in the US, they're trying to strengthen the scarcity pricing. So in ERCOT, I understand that by 2040, they are applying the ORDC. So what this means is that we only talked about energy scarcity, but then we also have to talk about reserve scarcity as well. So from the overall system perspective, they created this demand curve and then they put this on top of it. In other words, if there's also shortage of reserve, then the price would also go up. And price volatility in and of itself is not a bad thing, unlike what we expect, because this could also give you the signal to make new investment. And also there is one common misunderstanding. Now, when we say marginal cost being zero, then does that mean that the spot market in the electricity wholesale market, will this also be zero? So we often think that is the case, but that's really not the reality. So let's say in North America, hydrogen is dominant, but then in the electricity power market, the price is not zero. Because hydrogen, this is also electricity storage, so there's also opportunity cost. So when are you going to store this water and discharge this? So the pricing here is not zero. Also the offer-based market, so I will call this the PBT market. So in the PBT market, it's not that we submit the marginal price, but then we would submit the offer curve. And then on the right-hand side, if the penalty, so let's say for the discharge, so if I cannot follow the discharge instruction, then there could be penalties. In such a case, then the renewable energy, then the marginal cost is not going to be zero. But then you also have to think about the probability, and you also have to think about the generation volume as well as the penalty. So then you can bid for this in this curve shape. And because of the lack of time, let me move on very quickly. So second is about the power market operation has to be upgraded. So we need to have more advanced operation of the market. And the third point is we need to strengthen the ancillary service market. So the value, of course, the energy service itself is very important, but then also the regulated market is also very attractive, as the first speaker mentioned. So we also need to strengthen the ancillary service market. But of course, for the players, we need to provide hedging instruments. So one example would be long-term contract. So again, no market is perfect. So at times, government intervention might be needed. So gas cap or the price cap. And also the fourth one is the windfall tax. So windfall tax is also being discussed all over the world. And another is about the adjustment coefficient. So this is about reducing the infra margin. So, but again, we also need to analyze the possible consequences of such intervention, and this should not be made frequent. At any rate, so at crisis times, they say that we need to intervene in the market, then that means that we need to be able to determine when a crisis is. So right now, it appears to be a crisis. But then also during COVID-19, they say that during the pandemic, the electricity demand had fallen by the farthest extent since the World War II. So that was also a crisis, but not so much that it would change the market fundamentals. Now this is the natural gas price trend for the past few years on the right-hand side. So you see that the gas prices have gone up quite a lot, but then there were also times when the prices were higher. So it is also important to make the decision about the timing for the government's intervention in the market. So then these are the conclusions of my presentation. So there may be some crisis, but then perhaps not so big as to change the principles of the market itself. And we need to find the right design for the market. And the third is that the marginal cost being zero does not mean that the market price is zero. And the last is that at times of crisis, market intervention might be needed, but we need to analyze the consequences of that, and the intervention should not be frequent. And that is all for my presentation. Thank you very much.